Okay, exciting video. Today I'm going to talk about judgment, right? Topic of conversation, judgment. We've talked about likability before, as far as why that's important and what that does with the prospect. We talked about trust. We talked about respect a little bit tangentially, and expertise, right? All very, very important factors. Now, when we talk about specifically judgment, what I'm referring to is your through your body language, your tonality, your words, your being, like the way you just are, you're communicating to the other person. And we could talk about the prospect specifically, or like, if you're meeting somebody, you want to do like a business deal or whatever the case is, or even somebody that you want to make friends with, or maybe you're in the context of getting to know somebody or whatever the case is, any type of relationship, and especially the ones that actually have some kind of consequence. So in the context of sales, it means your clients, your prospects. Coming to the table with a stance of non-judgment will do nothing but help you. It will have zero negative consequences. And you might think, oh, of course, Constantine, of course I know that I'm not supposed to judge this person, and I'm not judgmental. It's not that, right? You may be thinking that you're judgmental, but you need to be able to communicate to them either through your the way your expressions, right? So your body language, which means when you're listening to somebody, are you actively listening? Like, are you kind of, nodding along? So do you kind of like get them? Right, right. Yeah. Okay, so what you're saying is this. Okay. So do you mean that, like, are you trying to say, and you want to kind of make sure that you're showing them that you're trying to understand them, right? And if they say something, you need to be able to reaffirm them, right? Reaffirming somebody demonstrates that you're not actually judging them. You're saying, yeah, that makes total sense. You're like, a lot of our clients are in that same position, or that's a very common thing, or yeah, like you're definitely not the only one. Like I see that all the time. Um, Things like that. So when you or that makes total sense. Or yeah, yeah, sure. Let me have a. You're being curious, right? When you're being curious, you're interested in getting to actually know somebody, but you can't feign curiosity, right? Because you're not going to be able to hold up that front. Eventually, that facade is going to crumble because you can't sustain it. It's also going to be very draining for you energetically, right? Because you're constantly trying to be somebody that you're actually not. And so you need to find your own way to be able to communicate that. So you have to think about specific situations in your own life where you're actually acting non-judgmentally, either towards your family, towards your friends, towards yourself, or towards maybe a specific social or cultural cause that you have. For me personally, that's homelessness. That was like that from when I was a kid, but it may be something different from you. So you have to think about the stance that you're taking of non-judgment, or even for nature, right? So if you have a problem with being able to connect with people, first of all, I don't know what the fuck you're in sales, right? This is all about people, but maybe it's going to be directed towards the environment, right? As far as like how you view nature, how you view the ocean or the lake or whatever the case is. So you have to really think about the stance that you take of non-judgment towards other people or other things, and then bring that to your actual calls. But you have to be able to manifest, you have to get that feeling, you have to generate that feeling, right? Of like, let me try to help this person, right? That is the first thing that you want to be telling yourself or feeling before the sales call. Is like, how can I help this person? Like we were talking about yesterday. You want to get on the same side of the table as them, because when you're on the same side of the table as somebody, you're not judging them, because you're both trying to come to a mutually agreed upon conclusion that's beneficial for both parties. So the stance of non-judgment comes from what you do and how you act, right? Not necessarily your mere presence, right? Because even though you may not be judgmental, or you may be non-judgmental, but you may look judgmental. Like I have a pretty hard facial expression. Like my resting face, it seems like I'm maybe not upset, but something's going on, right? And you hear this about like the resting bitch face, stuff like that. You know, it's the same concept, which is that you look a certain way, but it doesn't mean that how you're looking is what you are feeling. So you have to be able to like project that onto the other person, like, hey, like I understand you, like I'm getting, or I'm trying to understand you, or maybe you could clarify, okay, so what did you mean by that? Okay, so what are you looking for specifically? Like, what is it that you want to You know what I mean? Like actively try to be curious, right? It's like, oh, and by the way, the only reason I'm asking is because of XYZ, right? So sometimes if you could get somebody who's a little bit more either aggressive or who's very defensive and who has like a lot of insecurity, sometimes just like being able to like communicate to them like, hey, like I didn't mean anything by it, right? Just be like, I didn't mean anything by that. So the reason I'm asking is for XYZ reason, right? So you have to be able to communicate that through your face, right? Either curiosity, through your tone, through your body language, and also the way you run your calls. Remember, non-judgment is never, ever, ever going to detriment you in any way, shape, or form on sales call. Like, again, you're using discernment, especially when we're talking about maybe the world of politics or culture, whatever the case is. We can talk about that some other time, but now we're talking about sales, right? Non-judgment in sales is critical. You must be non-judgmental, right? That is super, super important. Because when you bring that energy to the table, then you're just kind of curious. If you're non-judgmental and you're looking at things, say, let's say, for example, you're out and about, and you may have noticed, you may have had moments like this. Maybe your state is naturally non-judgmental, but you may have moments in the past where you're just having like a great day, nothing bothers you, right? And then you have other days where everything bothers you. Well, did your stimulus change, or was it just like your internal state? Because you have the days that just nothing bothers you, and maybe somebody bumps into you or speaks to you rudely or whatever the case is, and you just don't care. And other days it's just like it seems like everybody's like happy you're having a good time, and somehow you're resentful because you're feeling internally not unwell, and so you're judging what you're experiencing. So it doesn't really have to do with the external environment, right? Other people or other things. It has really, really more to do with yourself. And that really comes down to how you're treating yourself. So if you have a problem with judgment and you find yourself being very judgmental, and that's hurting you either in your relationships or your sales calls, and you can't really be likable or not project that. I don't think you can do that. It's very fake, right? When you see somebody like fake doing it, it's kind of like it's cringe, right? It's almost borderline disgusting because I've seen that a lot. Like people like trying to act a certain way, like they're acting fake, ha ha ha. It's just like it's almost disgusting. It's very off-putting, right? So don't do that. Okay. So if you're not getting what I'm saying and you want to like try to do that and it feels like unnatural or weird for you internally, then don't fucking do it because it's just going to scare the other person away. And they're going to see you as strange and they're going to associate you with your company and they're going to go to your competition. So fuck all that, right? Don't do that. You want to do what's internally authentic, but you want to embody the principles in a way that is authentic to who you are, right? Which means that the way I communicate non-judgment might be a little bit different than the way you would communicate non-judgment, right? But it's still about feeling that thing and then acting out the principle, right? So just keep that in mind. Aside from that, keep one other thing in mind, and I'll maybe dive into this a little bit deeper as well in other videos, which is that you need to be able to come from a place of non-judgment towards yourself, which means that it's okay if you want to be able to be analytical or like break things down and talk about specifically what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, what mistakes you made, what are your wins, what are your losses, like how did you fail, how could you improve, stuff like that. Like you need to be able to see that whole picture. And I think I was talking about that a few videos ago. It's about like seeing a diamond, and when you look at that thing from different angles, it looks different to you depending on which angle that you use. So keep that other thing in mind, that in mind as well, which is that depending on how you because you can yell at yourself, right? You can be angry at yourself, and I see this all the time, and we might as well talk about it. The guys who say who have this really rough internal dialogue, like, don't be a bitch, don't be a pussy. Now, if you say that to your friend and you're just joking around, that's fine. Or sometimes, in that moment, you need to be able to like shift somebody's state, like Tony Robbins says, right? Like you're being a straight bitch right now. Like, just go fucking do it, right? Sometimes you just gotta be like, bang, just go do it. But you can't constantly be speaking like that to yourself or to other people, right? Like imagine you say that in a moment, it's context dependent, which means it makes sense in that particular moment, but it doesn't make sense every single moment of your life from now until the day you die. So you have to also think about, okay, so if I'm training myself to speak to myself in a specific way, as demonstrated by other people on social media or whatever the case is, is that sustainable for the next 40 years? You have to ask yourself that. Is the way I'm speaking to myself sustainable for decades? The answer is no. Like, do you want to be calling yourself a bitch for decades? You want to be able to, you want to start yelling at yourself and kicking yourself and flagellating for decades? You don't want to do that. That's not sustainable. It's going to stress you out. You're going to get really negative. You're going to put people off. It's a bad situation overall. So you have to be able to give yourself grace, give yourself compassion, but also hold yourself accountable to whatever process that you're setting out to do. So if I don't hold to my specific process, I'm just not going to wake up and feel amazing. Like, if I wake up, I don't have any video games. I don't play any video games. But let's say I did. Let's say I had a console, right? And instead of working, instead of recording a memo, a journal, recording these videos, getting work done, trying to close deals, doing productive things. If I just got up and eating healthy, hitting the gym, doing all the stuff that I do, instead of doing all that, let's pretend I didn't do any of that and I just played video games. Would it be then more natural for me to judge myself and to kick myself? Yes, of course it would. So the answer is, don't do those fucking things that are going to lead you towards self-judgments. Now, so there's a two-part equation, right? If you do that, then what you need to do is every moment there's a expression from Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise. If you haven't seen that movie, watch it. It's really good. Every moment is a chance to turn it all around, right? And that line is said, I believe, by Penelope Cruz either once or twice. Every moment is a chance to turn it all around, which means essentially that you could start fresh. You can reset any moment. You don't have to wait until Monday. You don't have to wait until the new year. You don't have to wait until your birthday. You don't have to wait until so-and-so. You can just do it, right? And if you don't do it, then just kind of admit to yourself that you didn't do it, make note of it, and do something better, right? Try to get yourself outside of the mind frame of yelling at yourself and kicking yourself and judging yourself. The only way actually to not do that is if you're consistently putting forth and demonstrating through your actions, good habits and a positive lifestyle, and doing things that will put you in the right state of mind so you can actually do what you want to do with your life, so you can actually perform or be productive or do whatever it is that you want. But you actually have to do things, or at least to try to do things to move you in that direction. So don't expect that you're not going to feel any judgment if you waste your life away, and especially if you have all these vices that you're engaging with. So instead of all the stuff that I was doing, imagine if I was not just playing video games, but I was also smoking weed and eating potato chips. Would I feel good about myself? No, because I'm not treating my body like a temple. I'm not treating myself with respect. If I'm not treating myself with respect with my actions, then of course my words are going to follow. It's very logical. So just keep that in mind, right? Have a good lifestyle. Wake up, make your bed, take a shower, get dressed, get to work or go to the gym or do something that is actually going to move you in that direction, right? And give yourself grace. You don't have to be perfect. Give yourself grace, show yourself compassion, and recognize yourself when you do good things. Don't just focus on the things that you're not doing right? I don't know why I put that in quotes, but don't focus on the things that you're just not doing right, or the things that you're failing on. Make a note of them, of course, and you have to learn from them. It's not just about practice, but it's also about practice and feedback that you're getting either from the external world or the feedback that you're getting from yourself. If you don't have anybody else to give you feedback, it's not just about that, but it's also about doing the things that are actually going to create the life that you would want to create, or to be the person that you want to be, right? So maybe you have a life and you're thinking, okay, well, how do I create this life? Well, in order to create this life, I have to become a specific person. So who is this person? Okay, so this person has integrity. Okay, they have discipline. Okay, they work hard. They take accountability. They're generous. They're kind to other people. They're understanding. They're eloquent, so they know how to speak well. They're in shape. Whatever, right? You just come up with a list, and then you start to work towards those things, right? And like I mentioned in a few videos, you might take a few steps forward, maybe one step back, a few steps forward, one step back. So give yourself that grace to be able to take a step back and recognize that it's just part of the process. Nothing in life is a straight line. In reality, nothing is a straight line, right? You're going to have ups and downs, right? Understand that whatever goes down must come up, whatever comes up must go down, right? So wherever you are, just know that that's just a natural part of the process, and just orient yourself properly and then keep taking the right steps to get there. So I hope that was helpful. I covered a couple of points there, and I'll leave you with that for now.